Hi to everyone and welcome back to another video. I know it's been a while, 2.5 months, feels like a lifetime ago. Maybe not for you guys, but for me it has been. So today we're going to be talking about my experience of being at RAF Halton. So as you can tell, I have completed my phase 1. It is done. Phase 1 in the bag, 10.5 long weeks, done and dusted. Graduated July the 3rd, which is this Wednesday just gone. So quite an interesting 10 weeks, and hopefully I can explain that in this video for anyone who's going in it, or maybe you've got loved ones going in it, just maybe understand what they're going to be doing, and hopefully I can answer some of you guys' questions. So without further ado, let's crack straight on. So before I get into anything, firstly, it's going to be a long video, just keep that in mind, and secondly, anytime I talk about dates or things that I did, it might be different for you. Every course is different. They seem to chop and change a lot. So for example, the course I did, I was the second intake to do it. So if I say that your final fitness is on day 62 or whatever it is, for some people might have been before that, or final inspection or whatever, right? So when it comes to dates, and when I say when it is, whether it's week 3 or whatnot, just take that with a pinch of salt. It might not be the same for you, but you will be doing roughly all the same stuff regardless of which date it's on. Okay, so please keep that in mind. So without further ado, so the course is divided into 3 parts: mod 1, 2 and 3. Okay, so let's begin with mod 1. So mod 1 for me personally was the first 2 weeks. So that includes arrivals. That's where you meet your corporals. That is where you find what barrack block you're going to be staying in for the 10 weeks. That is where you get briefed for the first time. You get shown around camp. You get shown your allocated bed space, which you all get shown that on the day there. And yeah, basically that's what you do on the first day. And then for the rest of the days, you go to stores. You get your PCS. You get you also get your you get ascertained, and your fitness test you'll get done. So on the fitness test, please keep in mind that don't make the mistake I did. If you read on the RAF page, which I haven't read in a while actually, but before I went in April or March, I read the RAF fitness requirements, a multi-stage fitness test. States it was 8.6 passed. It wasn't for me. It was 9.10. Now I did get 9.5. I failed it, but I had to redo my fitness test again on day 30 because I was in a 10% bracket. I would not recommend you guys do that. Don't think that you could have 10% leeway or 20 or whatever their leeway is, because you have to pass it at some point. If you don't get the 9.10 on the money as a minimum, because that's the minimum pass standards, you will get reflighted 2 weeks. So I done it, but I passed it on day 30, which I might talk about a bit more later on. But my biggest advice on that: pass it first time around. Okay, you will then ascertain, or you swear fealty basically. For me, that was on day 3. Some people it's on day 1, so just keep that in mind again of the dates, because it can always change. And then, like I said, you go to stores and you get all your kit. You get your hodl, which is a big black bag, big ops bag that you will get basically throughout your military career with all your kit in it. You get your PCS, which is your greens. I don't know if you can see, wrong finger there, with my fingers touching a minute, very blurred version of my PCS shirt hanging up in my wardrobe. So you get all that, and you'll learn how to polish, and you'll get introduced. You'll learn how to polish, iron your clothes, make your beds to inspection standards, what to present on your bed every day, how to make your bed every day, just other sort of basic bits like that, where the mess is, and just other bits and pieces. And then throughout the sort of towards the end of the first week, and definitely for the second week, you'll be learning drill. So your drill movement, left, right, left, all the cadences. You'll learn the cadences at the beginning. When you shout left, right, left, they will get you to shout left, right, left until you've had your drill assessment basically, which I'll talk about in a minute. And you'll do drill, and you'll have a lot of theory lessons. You'll then get sort of injections. Your immunized. How do you say it? I don't know what the word is. Get your injections for like all your vaccines. Sorry, all your vaccines, and they'll take your blood and things like that. So a lot of things will happen on the first 2 weeks. The main thing, and the other thing you'll get introduced is your PED, which is PT or physical education, right? Now I'll touch on this for a couple of minutes. Okay, for me personally, it was a big challenge doing physical, because I've mentioned, if you follow my channel, I mentioned physical is not my thing. Even though I can do weightlifting very well and things like that, I'm definitely not cardio based. However, I just like, if you've watched I've mentioned this before, when I was in cadets, everything that came up, whether I liked it or didn't like it, I gave 100%, and I still took that mindset into doing this. So every PED lesson, whether it was what I class as a thrashing, they don't class as a thrashing, because that's not, I don't know, not the right terminology. Maybe they can't call it a thrashing, but I found it thrashing personally, where I'm just honking out and knackered. I gave it my all, and that increased my fitness massively. So I'm so glad that I got the opportunity to not only do the lessons, but to actually push myself in that moment. Some people didn't, some people did. We had athletes, like really good athletes. I had a triathlete in my room, and even though he was always at the front, as you could imagine, there were times maybe he wasn't struggling, but I did see him like breathing heavily and things like this. So just don't, I would say, don't compare yourself to others. Just keep pushing yourself to the max limit you can go, and you will notice a big physical change in your fitness level, for the better. So yeah, moving on from that, what was the next one? So what would we cover? P8. That's basically the end of mod 1 in reality. You do have a few other lessons. You do some team building stuff, but the main core bits, they're the main core bits you're going to be doing. So there's two things that I would say, especially, well, this goes throughout the entire course, but there's especially important in the beginning, because you're not going to be used to it. You're going to be tired. Okay, you're going to be tempted to fall asleep in these theories and lectures, because there's a lot of them. Do not fall asleep in your theories and lectures. Okay, do not do it. They will basically tell you to stand up at the back, go it, because you're taking accountability for it, and there'll be nothing more than said. They won't ever go at you, they won't discipline you, but if they catch you sleeping, then stand by is what they will say. So just don't fall asleep. Do the best you can, and sort of go from there. So what was the next bit? Oh yeah, sorry. The second one was, this is probably going to be the hardest weeks by far. Okay, so for me it was probably week 1 to 3 was where it was really difficult. I remember day 8, I think it was, so the Wednesday, was it Wednesday? It was one of the days. I basically broke down on the phone crying to my partner. So, it's, I'm not necessarily ashamed to admit it. I'm just going to be honest with you guys. It wasn't. I'm not going to tell you why I did and what happened. Firstly, I don't want you guys to worry. They weren't physically punching me. I was getting bullied or anything. I'm not obviously going to get bullied for it. So I won't get bullied in there. It weren't to do with an individual punishment, as in something I did. It was just all the pressure was mounting up mainly, or all the timings and everything like that. They're basically trying to break you to see if you want to quit. They want people who are genuinely want to be in the Air Force. Now, for me, it would have taken a hell of a lot to get me out. I can promise you that now. Okay, I had everything to lose leaving and everything to gain staying. So I took that mindset and I grizzed every single part out. And there were definitely many other times where it was a struggle as well. But that was probably the biggest struggle of them all. So I was able to. Well, the one thing is, that day specifically, I realised that everyone else is going through the same thing. Everyone else was like crying to their parents and stuff. Like, I'm talking about, I'm 25. I had 17-year-olds, early 20s, sometimes even 30-year-olds sort of doing it as well. So everyone was, maybe not, I don't know if they was their parents, but you guys, like, they're phoning someone for second, like, going through it. So we all went through it. Most important thing is talk to each other. Don't hold it in. It is so important to talk to each other. Fortunately, I had a good room of lads. So I had a lot of them that I was able to talk to, and they were great. So I was able to sort of just, I don't know, it didn't really build up, and I recommend you guys do that. There's no shame in doing it. Just frick me, you're getting through these 10.5 weeks. I couldn't care less when anyone else thought of me at that point. So I spoke to a few of the guys, and it was good. So okay, moving on from that, what was the next bit? Okay, so moving on to mod 2, which was the start of week 3, and when did it end? End of week 7 or 8? End of week 7 or 8, it's either one. I think it was 8 actually. And yeah, it was end of week 8. So this is where you get introduced to the IFPT, so Initial Force Protection Training. Okay, on the Tuesday, so on the Monday of start week 3, I had my drill assessment. And there was a few other lessons. Then on the Tuesday, we went to stores again to get our GSRs and helmets, okay, or respirators as they're known as. They're not gas masks, okay, they're respirators or GSRs, okay, and that's where you meet your IFPT, the reg, okay. So you're gonna have, we had 3 streams where we were. So we had A, B, and C. We had C stream, which are basically stream meaning like a group of staff that are all reg gunners. Okay, so they're a good laugh. They like to tell a lot of jokes, and they are, as you can imagine, they're like the army of the Air Force, if you will. Obviously, I wouldn't call them that because they're a little bit more trained, I think. I don't really know what their training's like, but they are a really good laugh, and they are very strict at the same time. But yeah, I did enjoy being around them. So then from Wednesday till basically Friday, you're going to be doing you're not going to be doing assessments, sorry. You're going to be preparing for your first, what we called summative assessment. Now, I don't know if it was called summative assessment because it was in May or whatever it is. it might be winteritive assessment in yours, I don't know, or if that's just the name of them, which was the CBRN drills. So from Wednesday and Thursday we learned all the drills. Friday we did a little bit more of the drills as well, but we also got initially exposed on Friday, so that was a interesting drill to say the least. That was an interesting experience. So for some people, including myself, I was really nervous to get in the gas chamber. I knew I was going to get exposed to CS gas. I didn't know what to expect. I thought I might die. I thought I might foul it. You can't foul it unless you don't take it, okay? If you basically refuse to go in the chamber and breathe it in and do that, then you will foul and you get reflighted, okay? If you just go in there and just get exposed to it, that's a pass. It's not really even an assessment. So basically what you do, I'll run through it quick. You get in a line of 8. There's 2 rooms, there's 2 doors, it's a big building, the IFPT, there's 2 doors, but there's 2 different rooms. You don't see the other 8 people. We was on the furthest left, some people go on the furthest right. 8 of you go in there, they make you stand in a U before you actually go into the actual room. So you have like a sort of lobby area, and then you actually go into the room where the chemicals are, or the CS gas is being lit. And they'll give you a quick brief of what's going to happen, tell you what to do. They'll tell you to walk around anti-clockwise or clockwise around the room until they say stop. And basically, then you take off your gas mask. Respirator. I just call it gas mask. Respirator. I still make the mistakes. Don't do what I do. You take it off and then you get exposed. So basically, when they opened the door for me, it smelled like burning. It smelled like fireworks were going off. So basically, the reason why they do it, they even tell you that, is to make sure that you can trust the equipment. So if you've got the respirator on, you shouldn't be feeling any of the effects of CS gas. That's it doing its job. That's what they want you to do. And they want you to feel the effects of what CS gas does to see how good the kit is. That's the main thing. But I think they actually just secretly like seeing you flipping dying over the CS gas. That's the secret. So you walk around the room. They basically get you to stand still. They split you into 2 floors. There'll be 2 IFPT staff standing there. And they'll tell you, right, you're going to be listening to my command, do everything I say. And if you say yes, corporal, or whatever their rank is. For me, it was corporals. So then I was basically second on the left. So the guy in front of me, he said, okay, I want you to pull the straps, take the respirator off, and repeat after me. Literally, as soon as he pulled his respirator off, he just went, he was like freaking going crazy, he couldn't breathe properly, he was panicking, this, that, and the other. And I thought, oh my lord, because it's all smoky and stuff. It's not like heavy smoke. You didn't think it was going to be that bad. And they give it a couple of seconds, and if you just can't get out, they will just drag you by the collar and just throw you out the door, and then you're outside. It's done. So I was bricking it, as you can imagine. So I pulled the respirator off when he said. I stood there and nothing happened. And I could feel it. I could feel it all. And it weren't affecting me. I thought, maybe I'm immune, because there are people who are immune. So he goes, I want you to repeat after me. I want you to take a deep breath in. So I took a deep breath in. Nothing really was affected. I could feel a bit of a tingle. It was like thick air was going in. And my eyes was all right. And I said my rank. And then I got to the 3 letters of my last name. And that was it. I was gone. I was coughing like crazy. My eyes weren't really bad. They were watering a little bit, but they weren't stinging or anything. For some people, they say they felt like this stinging sensation. Me, it was just coughing. It was just really heavy coughing. So I couldn't get any more words out. I was like, I was trying to talk at the same time to do it. And I was sort of like doing this. It was really strange. And he just, at the end, he just grabbed me and just threw me out the door. And I was like, walking around, and all the other IFPT staff are laughing at you and having like sort of mimicking and taking a mick. And they get you to walk around this tree until they say stop, and you sort of like clean yourself up and other bits like that. But it was some people might be nervous, but I'm really glad I did it. I have to be honest, it was a really interesting experience, because I've never been exposed to that sort of stuff before. So you see all the riots on the streets, that's what they get exposed to. So it was quite an interesting experience. But for other people it was different. Some people it was horrible. It was stung in their nose and their mouth. But for me it was no stinging. It was just coughing like crazy. Everyone's individually different, so just take mine with a pinch of salt. Yours is probably going to be different to mine. Then comes around on week 4. You then do your assessments. We have 7 assessments. You get 3 attempts of each assessment. So for example, let's say you got it wrong twice on one drill. Sorry, on each assessment, on each drill. I meant 3 attempts on each drill. If you got 2 wrong on one drill, but you pass on the last one, that doesn't mean you have to do it first time for every others. It will reset again for the next ones. You can do it another 3 times. So there's a lot of attempts to do them. So just make sure that you've just relax, just chill out, do the drill you're supposed to do it, and then just go from there. I'm not going to talk about the drills or anything like that, because it will just go over your head. I'd rather you just think about, okay, I've just got to remember these, going to be these 6 or 7 or 8 drills I've got to remember. Just step by step, relax, do it in your own time. There's no time limit. There is a time limit actually on the first one. You're supposed to get your GSR on in 9 seconds from in the pouch on your head and tightened up. It's to simulate if if you was out on patrol and someone did gas you, you got to hold your breath, you got to put it on quick. That is quite quick. They told us that the standard is 9 seconds, but if they show you're really moving quick and it goes over 9 seconds, they're not going to be too fast. And they're not going to sit and go 1, 2, 3 and just count, right? So just get on as quick as possible. But that'll be the only thing that I'll talk about. So in terms of CBRN, just get used to being uncomfortable physically. You're going to be wearing all the gloves and hazmat and boots. You're going to be sweating. I was in the summer heat, standing outside with all the stuff on. So you can imagine what it was like. Hopefully it's maybe a little bit more colder for you lot. Probably not if you're going in sort of August time. But just just get in there. And you have to wear the helmets as well, and they're not the comfortable thing. So it weren't very enjoyable, but it was an experience. I put it that way, and I don't regret doing it. So just get involved in it, get it done, and move on. So that's really the only advice I can give. So week 4 comes around. You are now doing a weapons handling test. This is where I started to really enjoy it because I love shooting in cadets. I've mentioned before I used to do shooting a lot. So the rifles are literally the exact same. We had L98s in cadets. These are L85s. They're a slightly different version, but they're virtually the exact same. And you basically go in a classroom. It's a bit more relaxed here. You get to know your your section commander, which would be a corporal, or mostly a corporal. They will sit down, they'll ask about your name and why you joined, sort of thing, just get you know you a bit more. And that's why I like the IFPT, the Reg, a little bit, because they seem to treat you with a bit more humanity earlier on, where the other staff, my chair's going down, the other staff, I felt like they had to go by a sort of like, they'll treat you a bit more respect towards the end, if that makes sense. So it was nice being around them, even though these were relatively scary, Reg guys, but they were really fun, and they know how to have a good laugh as well. So just enjoy it. There's not much to it. They'll just teach you how to strip a weapon down, how to clean it, how to do a proper load drill, unload drill, safety drill, how to hold a weapon in the right direction, and all these other bits. And they might talk about positions as well, which moves on to your shooting, but that's more in shooting than obviously in WHT. So you basically prepare that from the Tuesday to the following Monday. So you have a good amount of time to practice, and also you have practice over the weekend as well. So it comes on Monday. You'll get put into a room. This is again another summative exam. You have 3 attempts to pass your WHT, otherwise you get reflighted. So I passed it first time around, fortunately. And you basically just do exactly everything you've just done, okay, in an assessment portfolio. So they'll try and relax you much more, and they will ask you questions as well. That you'll do lessons on, I believe, the Friday. I think it's the Friday of WHTs. You'll do these certain lessons about like wind direction and all this other stuff. It's not too much of a problem. They mainly want you to focus on the physical. They want to be safe physically handling the weapon. But obviously you do need to pass the theory as well. But they're a little bit more lenient on that. But obviously you don't want to see it leniency as okay, I can chin it off. You don't want to do it. You want to pass everything because you set a good example. Okay, and if you set a good example, they treat you. Well, they don't treat you horribly, but you want to get on good. You want to get on good books. You want to get through these 10 weeks as stress-free as possible because there's already that amount of stress. So, yeah, keep that in mind. Okay, so you do that. Then the beginning of week 5, you do your WHT test. Once that's done, you get a green card. It's like a little booklet that states you can basically handle a weapon. Then you start moving into live firing, so you get straight into it. We basically done something called a DCCT, which is like an electronic range, if you will. So it's not got actual rounds, but that's a really useful piece of kit. Actually, I was like, I want one of these in my houses. So it's all gas controlled. Like the magazines haven't got rounds in them; they've got like gas, and it tells you like how far off. It tells you all the statistics. Really good piece of kit to train you up. And then maybe the same day or the day after, I can't remember which one it was for me. You will then go and go onto an actual live shoot with 5 rounds. And what they'll do is for us personally, the assessment, we're in 3 different positions 2 times, supported and unsupported. I'm not going to talk. They make sense. I'm not going to dive into all of them, what it means, because I'll just be here forever. But ours were standing, sitting, and kneeling. Okay. For me, standing was the hardest. Kneeling and sitting was relatively. It was okay. I'll put it that way. It was okay for me. And then you basically do those. You do unsupported, where it's just your body weight, and then supported, you can lean against something or lean on top of something and things like that. Basically, it's kind of in a nutshell. The main things about this that I will only say There's a couple of things. The first one you're going to be learning about the 9 key principles. You'll learn about in your WHT about the shooting principles. I think they're called. I can't actually remember what it's called. Basically, like the laws of shooting. Like your sight alignment picture must naturally point at the target, or something like that. Your sight alignment picture must. I don't even know what it is now. That's terrible. Yes, it's like your weapon must. The weapon must point naturally at the target. The sight alignment and sight picture must be correct. I got those two mixed up. I didn't forget those two got mixed up. And there's a few other ones that I won't mention now. So you can use those principles, but there's one called the 9-step principle, something like that. It just talks about elbow position, sort of knee position, back position, head position, breathing, relaxation, things like this. For me, because I done competition shooting in cadets, and I done normal shooting as well. For me, I took my cadets principles more than over my instructors. Now, I am not a instructor in shooting. I have not got qualification. I have not been taught how to instruct people. I'm just going to talk about what I did, and if you choose to use it, that's on you. But I would definitely recommend listening to your staff because they do know what they're talking about. So, the 9 key principles are like elbow, head, left elbow, right elbow, back, this, that, and the other, right? All true. But for me, I find when there's 9, that's quite a lot. So I simplify it into 3. I call it relaxation, okay, or comfortable. That's what I call it, comfortable, right? So for me, if I have to get in a kneeling position, right, I will move my entire body till I feel as comfortable as possible, And not only that, when I looked into the rectile or the scope, okay, I look into the scope and looking at the rectile, it's not shaking left to right. Now there were times where it was because it's just one of those positions you can't really prevent it from happening. But the main thing I'm keeping an eye on is whether I'm breathing in and out, whether it's going up and down. Okay, that's when I know I'm in the best position I can be in. So once I did that, I got my breathing right. And then the third tip is I followed through with every shot. Meaning that, let's say they say, because you get basically, you're at a 25-meter range, you do you have like a white square, and they might say aim at the bottom, so like the line at the bottom. So when the rectile touches the bottom, bang, that's when you pull the trigger. Okay, you don't snatch it. Obviously, you breathe out and then you squeeze, bam, and you come back slowly. You squeeze to keep it all a nice flowing motion. That's very true. Okay, so what I knew from when I did a little bit of competition shooting in cadets is that breathing is the most important one out of all of them. Yes, position is important, but if you can get your breathing at the right standard, repetitive at the same shot every time, and you aim at the same position as your first shot, your grouping's going to be way much more smaller. And that will bring me on to my third point, which is repeat the same shot as the first one, okay? So if your first one you aimed, let's say, at the square and it touches it, but for some reason it was at the corner, like maybe you slipped and whatnot, then go to the corner. Don't go back to that, because now your grouping is set off that corner, okay? And now if the second one, though, goes way off, then still set to that corner now, because that's the bench marker. If, however, it goes off again and your second and third shot are now clumped together, I would personally then move on to that because they're more likely to pass. I'm not an instructor. Please keep that in mind. I'm just doing what I'm used to doing in cadets, and I passed all my shootings first time around. I didn't fail it once, and you get 6 attempts, I believe, or we got 6 attempts on each one, basically. So, there were people that get reflighted from that. Unfortunately, they didn't hit the mark. I'm not going to talk about groupings because ours changed. Ours were different than the older course, because basically the course that we was doing, we was a second intake to run it. The one intake above us was the first one to run this total new course and everything. So keep in mind, I'm not going to mention about the groupings for us, but yeah, just make sure you keep repetitive, keep practicing. You might be a unique situation where you fail, you get a lot of CT. Again, same with CBRN. If you fail, they pull you out. They'll then give you remedial training. They'll run through everything again, head position. If you're in CBRN, so I didn't mention this CBRN, they might talk about all these different things and how to do this drill correctly, run through it. So you do get a lot of help. So please keep that in mind. You're just thrown in the deep end. You do it until you fail. They will help you. Well, ours did anyway. That's why our stream, I think, had the biggest pass rate out of all 3 of them. So anyway, moving on to, so you do that, then basically the shooting comes around on Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday for us. So Monday was one flight, while the other flight done first aid. They started to move on to their first aid. The Tuesday was the flight that done first aid, and now the other flight done shooting is now on first aid. And then the Wednesdays for anyone that didn't pass on their tries, they'll do it on Wednesday, while everyone else just done sort of revision and first aid. Well, actually, I don't think they even done first aid. I think they just chilled out for the day, because you can't obviously get extra. You can't get extra teaching, because the people who then shooting will get unfair advantage because they haven't had as much. So I can't remember how it worked, but anyway, once that was done on Wednesday, obviously everyone who stayed passed their shooting. Then it moved quite quickly onto first aid and deployment skills. So we've done a lot of first aid. This is by far the easiest part of IFPT, trust me. Went round onto first aid, and then you basically on the Wednesday, I think it was for us. So we started on Thursday, done it till the following Wednesday. You just basically done basic, and they really run through it. It's so simple. You guys shouldn't do foul too much. Just learn the acronyms. That's the most important part. Well, not most important part, but it's good to learn the acronyms. Yeah, moving on to that. So what's that? That'll be week 5. Shooting's week 5. So week 6 is when you do your first aid. Then week 7. Week 6. What is it? Week 5? No, yeah. Sorry. Start of week 6 is when you do your shoot. Middle of week 6 is when you finish your shoot completely. End of week 6, like Thursday, Friday, is when you do your first aid and deployment skills. Then you will have week 7 is when you actually do your first aid assessment. And also keep in mind, you do a theory assessment. I forgot to mention this on the CBRN, that you have 2 tries to pass. 2 tries to pass, and they're like 10 questions. They're really not that hard. Just revise them as much as you can. You'll be easy. The same for the first aid. You don't have one for the shooting because they ask you questions during your weapons handling test, like just a couple of questions. So, but you do have another theory for deployment and first aid. Okay, so we done deployment and first aid theory exams back to back, and we done our first aid practical exam all on the same day. So it was quite a lot to cram in. We weren't too difficult, and they were quite straightforward and easy. So once we'd done that, then the Thursday, I believe we just sort of done a bit more deployment, I think it was. And then it came to the Friday, we then got prepared for Blue Warrior. Now this is obviously where people get most excited for. Most people are looking forward to Blue Warrior. So stand by. Also known as CPT. So you get your Bergam, you get your sleeping bags, you get all your roll mats, you get all this sort of fun bits and bobs. And then over the weekend, you have to basically load up everything onto a truck, which will be on the parade square, where you're going to be staying. And you have the weekend to get that on, ready for Monday to be set off to go to Blue Warrior or CPT. Now, the biggest advice I'll give to this: start buying things before before the date set, meaning that on like the weekend. Start buying things weeks before. Okay, you don't have to buy it all in one go, but there were so many people that didn't buy stuff until the last moment and it didn't arrive from Amazon. Okay, so please keep that in mind. Do start getting that stuff. So things I would recommend though are not that much because they give you mostly everything. But yeah, things like just a head torch. Make sure you got a head torch. That's a really important one. That everyone needs a head torch that has a red light. That's the most important one as well. And yeah, so now it comes around to the Monday. You have now set off for CPT, or known as Exercise Blue Warrior. Now this is where it gets interesting. Okay, I was looking forward to this until I did it. Now it was fun though. No, don't get me wrong. It's a lot of fun, but it is definitely it's quite a struggle. Okay, so you get there and they'll tell you go to like this sort of like army facility, if you will. And it's like an old munitions place. So it's quite a big area. It's like old factory stuff, but not like factories like huge buildings and stuff. It was like this is where they created munitions. Can't say it, and things like that. So you get there. They'll basically brief you that you can never leave your rifle and your weapon unattended at all times. Okay, you have to take it everywhere. As in, you have to sleep with it within an arm's length. That's as far as it can be, within an arm's length. Now, if you get caught, you then get remedial training, and it's not beasting, okay, on the field, which means they will run you back and forward. You have to drop to the floor. You have to leopard crawl and do all this other stuff and other bits like that. Oh, and before you actually go to CPT, you will do a stretcher run with your PT. Now, I didn't actually mind the stretcher run. This is where basically it's like an 84 kilo stretcher, 6 of you on it, and you have people running behind you, and you have to change out and things. But again, that's not much to really to go at. So just just power through it, do the best you can. So you get there, you get set up in the camp. So the first day they basically teach you how to set up a bivvy tent, and literally all it is a plastic sheet tied between 2 trees and your sleeping bag underneath it. That's all you've got. Okay. So before you actually go in, you will be given a kit list. You will have to have your PT shirts, so your green shirts under your PCS. You will have basically what are called PT shirts with your name and your service number on it that you have to imprint yourself. you would have to have them in 4 different waterproof bags, so sealed bags. So make sure you get the big ones, big bags. And you have to have boxers, socks, or knickers, or whatever the girls is. But again, I'm going off guys. Girls, you can still relate to it. Underwear, basically. So socks, underwear, and your shirts. Okay. There will be no shower facilities. Keep that in mind. You will wash with a boiling water mess tin with soap and 2 flannels. One for body, one for face. Okay. And they have to be different colours. They will tell you this on CBT. Again, I don't want to tell you guys too much if you haven't gone in yet. Your brain's going to be exploding. But just to give you an idea of what to expect. Okay. So don't worry about the kit too much. But when it comes to the kit, get everything they recommend and get it as quickly as possible. Saves you stressing over the weekend. They'll teach you how to pack the burger and everything. Okay. So yeah, the main things about CBT is get involved as well. Okay. It is assessed, but you can really only get reflighted on failing your WHT again. Because if you don't do the drills, by the way, keep that in mind as well. If you for shooting and for Blue Warrior, if you're doing weapon stuff and you're not doing the drills how they're supposed to be, they will pull your WHT away and you have to redo your WHT 3 times. And you can get reflighted on that if you fail it 3 times. We had one person on Blue Warrior who was doing who failed their weapons training, and then they got their what would you call it? They got their WHT stripped. They failed it 3 times. They got reflied. So it does happen. Again, don't worry about that for now. You will get very confident rifles because you'll do it so much. I just want to keep you aware that you want to be on it when it comes to your drill. So please don't get too frustrated or worried in a minute if you're going in. So yeah, basically you'll learn how to do not night ops, but what to keep an eye out of. And you sort of will sit there in the dark and sort of listen to different sounds and hear different things. And you'll be surprised how well your senses, if you can't see anything, how well your senses enhance the other ones. And then they'll basically run through sort of like simulations, and they'll do PT as well, like methods of movement, which is that is probably the hardest part, was methods of movement and Kazivac. So they're the 2 PT sessions that you're going to be doing with the reg. So as you can imagine, the regiment gunners, they don't muck around when it comes to fitness. You know, they do. We had I was very close to throwing up for me personally, because how much, but that's because I do push myself to the absolute limit. So maybe if you don't push yourself too much, they would get it. But I would recommend pushing yourself, because get involved, get into it. So you'll learn how many movements was there? So there was 4 different methods of movement. I'm not going to run through them all now. Again, I don't want to blow your brains up. And they'll get you to do it while they'll continuously make you run round, sort of like a resupply point. You keep running round when there's punishments. You'll then do that, and you'll get much faster doing stuff. And this is where people get bruises on their arms and burns and stuff. Fortunately, I barely got any bruises. There were some people in the intake above me when they came back and I spoke to them. They had a lot of bruises and burns. Yeah, so that's where it gets good, because they simulate as well. They put all the cam cream on, there's smoke going off everywhere. They throw bat sims, which are basically, they just explode, and it's a simulated like an actual environment. It's brilliant. It was really fun actually, but the actual physical side of it's not fun. Then that's basically on, what was that, the Tuesday, and they do other lessons as well. They talk about, you know, how to cam cream up and other things. They do a lot of different individual lessons. And then basically the Wednesdays when you do Kazivac, that was horrible. So basically you go on the field where you get not beasted, you get remedial training. They will tell you that. You get remedial training. And they basically make you do like fireman's carry. They make you do partner drags. They do single drags where you have to grab the weapon and drag him with one thing. There'll be an actual stretch to run back and forward until they deem necessary, and other bits like that. And then in the evenings, this goes for every evening, you'll basically get a certain amount of allocated time to do personal admin. Okay. Actually, I'll talk about that at the end, because I feel like that needs to be its own section. So that'll be the Wednesday, and then Thursday is when it's actually really good. Okay, this is when all the training you've been doing with your instructors and things like that, you'll put into practice. So you'll spend the whole day doing, like, to test you on how your first aid is. They'll teach you like combat first aid as well, so don't worry about that too much. On the Kazakhstan one, they teach that. They'll teach you how to transverse. I don't know if that's the right word, but transverse, is that the right word? Whether it's like an open field in like an arrowhead formation, and how to sort of like do certain things. If you come under contact, you would walk in sort of staggered formation, and how to give hand signals. That's really cool. I love that stuff. That was really fun. And basically, you put that all into practice Thursday, and then Friday comes around, you pack up, you go home. So please keep in mind that every morning is probably the hardest one. People talk about, what's the hardest part? It's like, yeah, methods of movement is hard, but it ends. Kazivac, it ends. right? But the hardest part for me was the morning admin. You get about an hour and 30 minutes, an hour and 40 minutes to basically get your stuff out of your bag. Not everything, like your sleeping bag and stuff, but you have to basically pack up your sleeping bag every morning, put in your Bergen, take it to the hangar, as they call it, the hangar, and then you basically sit on your Bergens and wait, and then they go, okay, the time is this and this. You have until this time to get all your personal admin done, in your flight lines ready to go for the basic day. So you would have to cook breakfast. You get MRE packs, right? Make sure you do the breakfast one. I accidentally done breakfast for lunch the day before, and then I had to have like spicy curry rice for breakfast on a Tuesday because I didn't know that was bless me, that was breakfast. So I had to eat like spicy curry, like Indonesian spicy curry for breakfast. You can imagine what that was like. And you have to eat it. Sometimes you're going to get a vegetarian and you have to eat it. No matter how disgusting it was, there were meals that I was eating that I was sort of like heaving a little bit. And but I just shoved it down, got it down. You're going to need the SRAN. You're going to need to get those nutrients in you. It did give me really bad acid reflux though, so I'm glad I never had to do that again. I actually scratched it. I had to do it one more time. But yeah, so that was that. And then basically you have to cook breakfast. You then have to strip your rifle down, clean it because you get inspected afterwards. You then, once you do that, you have to have a face wash and a shave, and then you have to go into like this tent, and you have to make sure your water's boiling. Okay, so you basically take your mess tins, one for face wash, one for body wash, or if you've done the face wash outside, I think you're allowed to do the face wash outside, but again, it might be different depending on what your staff wants. So don't take that as gospel. The staff will check it, make sure you've got your rifle wherever you move. Your rifle's with your weapons, make sure you got it slung. You will learn about how to sling weapons and things when you do your WHTs and shooting and things. They will then test and go, yep, that's fine. You then take it inside the hangar. They'll have these tents separating from under 18s, boys, girls, over 18s. There's quite a few tents, and you go in there. There'll be no lights. You have to have your head torch on, and you strip butt naked in front of everyone, and you clean yourself up with soap and your flannels. You get that done. You powder your feet. Make sure your feet are powdered. They'll give you talcum powder, basically. Then you have to change into fresh pair of socks, boxers, and t-shirt, as in like not the PCS shirt, your other long sleeve shirt, the one that goes underneath it. And then once that's done, you then basically put all your crappy old kit on, and you do that every day. Then you have to pack everything away. And you think, an hour and 40 minutes, I'm going to do that easy. It goes quick, I promise you, right? And then basically once that's done, you have to make sure your water bottle's filled up. Make sure your mess tins are scrubbed clean at the bottom of it, because you get obviously like soot burn marks from the little, like, basically get like this little stove thing. You put these little dragon fuel sort of stuff, I don't know what they're called, like little gels. You light them and it sets fire really quick. They're really cool actually. I thought it was like a canister, but it's not. And you pop that on and then that cooks. And you have to really time manage here, like really well. And you do get used to it after like a couple of days doing it, but it is a pain in the ass to do. And then once that's done, your own section commander will come and inspect you. Tell you whether you basically pass. Well, they don't tell you whether you pass or fail the inspection. Sorry, they'll just tell you like keep in mind this, and then the sort of inspection is keep to their own desires, if you will. Not desires. Sorry, that's wrong. The inspection is kept to their own discrepancies, not desires, discrepancies. So, whatever the word is, I'm knackered. So leave me alone. So yeah, what we're doing from that. So yeah, that's done, and then basically you pack off home. And then basically you'll need to do a post CPT. Once you get back to base, you will definitely obviously want to have a shower, get a shower down, and then basically you will need to wash all your kit for Sunday inspection. You will have a post CPT inspection where basically they will show you how to lay out the inspection. They'll show you how to put in the bed, so don't worry too much about it. But just make sure everything's washed. I don't think you have to iron it, but you do have to box fold it. Again, you will learn box folding. I might even do a video on how to box fold if you guys would think that's valuable. And then basically on the Sunday, so you come back on a Friday, on a Sunday, then you're off to Crick Owl. Okay, then you're off to Crick Owl, which is basically where most people look forward to as well, is where you go to Wales, do adventure training. It was alright. I didn't particularly mad enjoy it. The food was much better, that's for sure. You get a lot more free time, so you can get some layers on your shoes. Make sure you do that. Get some layers on your shoes, because you're going to be inspected. Our final inspection was way after what other people's were. Some people's on like day 19, ours was on like day 60. So we got through, you do a lot of sort of like mountain biking, you do caving, you do a lot of hiking, you do camp out one night, everyone camps out. Not the same as CPT though, don't worry, there's no time for them to do stuff, you just get it done. Obviously the morning you have a time like 8 o'clock, you need to be ready to go on the next hike or whatever it is, but even in admin, you don't really need. You just eat whenever you need to, and just go to bed whenever you want, within reason, obviously. So yeah, once that's done, you come back, and then that's before that, after you do CBT, that's mod 2 done. That's 6 weeks. That's the biggest part of the course over and done with. You're over 60-70% there at this point. So Crickout is done. That's mod 3. That's the start of mod 3, and then you move into your basically your final part of your course. So at this point, once you do Crickout, you've got 1 week and a half before you graduate. Okay, so this is where you have your final fitness test. You will then have your final exam and your final inspection. So for us, our final fitness test is on the Monday, and then our final exam and final inspection was on the Friday. So throughout this week, you're going to be learning arms drill now. So you'll be going on the parade square a lot. You'll be marching around with your arms drill, learning how to slope arms, shoulder arms, general salute, all those fun bits. Don't get too stressed out by that too much. And yeah, that's basically that one. Yeah, I mean, in regards to IFPT, there's not much else I can really advise. Blue Warrior is fun. It's a good load of fun. Just put your effort in. That's the one thing I would recommend doing. In regards to Crickout, just enjoy it as much as you can. It is assessed, but not really. It's just attitude more than anything. If you've got good attitude, you're trying, they're going to be fine with you. And then the last week, just get your ironing. You're going to be doing your blues at this point. I would definitely recommend washing your blues with softener. They will tell you this anyway. Wash it loads. Like on the weekends you have off, when you get your blues, start washing them in their own wash. Get a load of softener on them. To me personally, because I had quite a decent iron, and I'll talk about kit afterwards and what to bring, because I know I've done a kit prep video, but I weren't actually that great, to be honest. There was things I learned since being there. We'll talk about that later. So yeah, last week you start ironing the blues, and then you have your final inspection, and just make sure you get everything done. You will have a few more lessons, like air power lesson. You will have some briefs in the room again. Look, it's basically like going back to week 1 a tiny bit, but not exactly. Just a little bit similar. And then final inspection comes around. This is when you will be in your ones. As you scratch that, the Monday on the fitness test, I had my Progress 3 inspection, and then Progress 2 inspection was, I think I was during like rifles time, but I can't remember the time exactly. But Progress 3 for me was on this is where we have to present blues. So we'll be in our number 2, which is a short sleeve blue shirt, in our 2's trousers, belt, and the SD hat, which is the big round hat and the cap, with our number 2 shoes. So basically that's to simulate what a final inspection will be like. And then final inspection comes around, you will be in your number 2 shoes, because you'll get 2 pairs of shoes. Your ones, your graduation shoes, are really shiny ones. All the whole shoe has got to be bald, where on your 2's, your body of your shoes got to be brush polished, where your toe caps have to be mirrors, which are bald. So yeah, final inspections in your ones, that will be your graduation uniform. They look absolutely awesome, as you could probably tell from the thumbnail of this picture. That's what I looked like when I got my picture done on graduation. And then basically it will be conducted from rank sergeant upwards. So you can have chief technicians, sergeants, flight sergeants, or sometimes even officers, but that's not very common, it's mainly sergeants. And just all I've got to advise is just look at look at it as just, everything has to be spotless, okay? Especially hygiene. Hygiene's a big one, okay? Make sure your blue shirts are on show, because you've got to present basically all your green stuff and virtually all your blue stuff in really, not the entire fit, like all 3 sets of PCS, all 3 sets of your blues or whatnot. It's one set of PCS, 1 set of your blues, 2 long, like 2 short sleeve, I think it was, in your GBJ. And again, don't worry about it too much, but just keep in mind, make sure, check everything, get everyone else, check everything, look at the bottoms of your shoes. There cannot be a speck of dirt anywhere, okay? Stains are different, like where we stain the whites, that's not dirt, that's staining. But if you can still get it off, get it off. You want to make a very good first impression, okay? And the other thing I would recommend doing is stick pictures on your civilian locker. So you have military locker and your civilian locker. On your civvy locker, stick pictures of, so for example, I had my dog, my partner, and then my now newborn, as like the scan pictures on there. That is a big one, because they will divert their attention on it, and they'll ask you questions, so they won't focus too much on your kit. I don't know if that's meant to happen, because we got told to do it by one of our staff. That's an important thing to do. I think they know that if you do have it, then they'll be little bit more easy on your inspection. They won't go too much into it. If you do a good first impression, like everything they start checking is presented right, your drill's right when you do your inspection, you use sergeant or whatever the rank is at the end of everything, it will set a good impression. They won't look too much in depthly, where if they do look in depth, I can promise they'll find something. They always do. Okay, so just make sure you do a good first impression. And the only other recommendation I would give is to declutter your civvy locker. So many people had like crap all in the top and stuff. Just put it all in your suitcase. Make sure it's all neat. Just a few bits. Make sure you got your wash kit there, like so make sure you got some civvy shoes, some civvy clothes hanging up, some civvy stuff back, like sort of box folded. Make sure you've got like your sort of shaving foam or whatever it is. Like for me, it was shaving foam. Your shampoo, your shower gel, whatever it is, and just get that all done. And then basically, just make sure you present it worn, do as best you can, de-thread everything, iron everything to best of your ability, and again, you'll know this stuff. I don't want to bowl your mind too much, but just keep that stuff in mind when it comes to inspections. Make sure it is to inspection standard, and they will give you a lot of as much help as possible. So that was done. I passed that with flying colours. I got a verbal praise, which is of 2 minors, nothing more than 2 minors. You need to get 5 minors or less in order to pass. Anything over 5 minors, so 6 onwards, you fail. Or if you fail hygiene, so like there's hair on your razor blade or your toothbrush is wet, then that's an instant fail, regardless of what you get. Everything else is an instant fail. So hygiene is very important. But again, you'll learn about what's hygiene, what's not, if you're not going into it. If you're not already in it, don't fry your brain too much. They will tell you how to keep it all to that standard. But yeah, just make sure your hygiene is on point. When I say hygiene, it's not just smelling. Hygiene is like dirt on the bottom of your shoes and things like that. Okay, please keep that in mind. So once that's done, you're going to have... I didn't actually talk about the local leave. So for me, I had local leave on the end of week 3. I had one on the... I actually had a... Sorry, not weekend leave, local leave on the Saturday, or I think maybe Sunday on the first one. Then I fortunately had weekend leave, so from Friday evening to Sunday evening, because I had a newborn. She was fortunately born on the Friday on the 21st of June. So I was able to go home. They gave me permission to go home because I weren't going to miss any assessments, and I had local leave anyway. They gave me the weekend leave, and as a really nice gesture, they gave me the weekend afterwards to be back there with obviously my newborn as well, which was appreciate it a lot. So I really thank the staff for that. So I didn't miss the birth of my child, which is amazing. I was able to stay on and complete the basic training. So yeah, then basically you've got now, if you fail your fitness or your final inspection or your final exam, you will have one more attempt to do it on the following Monday. Now again, take it with a pinch of salt. It might be different days. I don't know when it was going to be, and it might be different for you. So that's that. What's the next bit? So yeah, you'll redo it all on a Monday. If you fail it, you will get reflighted, unfortunately. We did have people who got reflighted on the Monday for 2 weeks. You could imagine that. They knew we was graduating on the Wednesday. They've just been reflighted. I think we had 2. So it's a shame, but it is what it is. It does happen. So yeah, then basically once you've passed everything, just set to grad, okay, which is a fantastic feeling. Just don't fuck up and be an idiot. You can still get reflighted on attitude. So just make sure you just stand fast, do what you got to do, go to the mess, turn up on time where you got to be. You'll do a lot more run-through practices, and then Tuesday you will have a run-through practice, one more. You have your final P-Ed, you have a few lectures about sort of like what to do with phase 2 and this, that and the other, and that's it. And then Wednesday comes around, and then you wake up, you will basically spend the day basically sweeping certain parts of the place. You'll litter pick everything. Some people will set up certain things. If you won awards, which they'll tell you nearer to the time, then you have to polish the trophies and things like that. And then you don't have a grad run through, and then the time goes quick as well, by the way. You hit maybe 11 or so. The parents start to come in through the gates between 11 and 12. They start to come in. They go to somewhere called the NCC, which you'll learn what that is. It's where like the sort of cost cutter shop is on base. And then you'll be in the block, getting into your ones at one point. Well, once you've had lunch, you have lunch like 1:30 or whatever. It hits 12:15. You'll get dressed into your ones, ready to rock and roll. You'll take a step out. Everyone's in the stands at this point, so they can obviously see us because our block was right in front of the stands where they can see it. Then we took a slow walk round the back. We stood for about half hour with the band and stuff. And then you'll get taught this. You'll hear a trumpet, and which means the parade is starting. And in that moment, everything you've been working for the 10 weeks comes into play. You're like, this is it. Like, this is what I've been working. This is all the stress, the crying, the worrying, like the wanting to go home has all come through. So then your sort of intake officer, or the person who was a flight lieutenant for us, would lead the parade. Then he will call the commands, and then we had an air commodore come and speak to us, and this, that, and the other, and other bits like that. So, and then the parade began, and all your parents are going to be screaming their heads off. They're going to be going crazy. I couldn't help but smile because mine were right on the bottom, because obviously we had a newborn. They needed sort of access to go around if they needed to change her and stuff. So they sat right at the bottom, and I was like right next to them as well when I went, because you basically walk past them, and I'm not going to go through the whole parade, but then you have a flyover where you had I think a private jet, or one of the, I don't know if it's the monarchy's private jet or whatever it was someone's private jet, and which was pretty cool, I guess. It was, you don't really see it because you're general saluting and you can't look up, so it just flies straight past, and that's it, it's done. Yeah, then you have a few speeches, you go for that, and then the parade ends. You know, your loved ones will be lined up in a line. You'll march off, you stamp, and then you hug, you take photos and stuff, and then you move back to NCC, and then you take pictures like the one you saw in the thumbnail. Is what I took, and then basically you have from 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock to get the fuck off base back home, and that's it. You're done. That's the 10.5 weeks done. It feels very weird because they'll tell you you're off on base at 5 o'clock. Otherwise, I'm dragging you out. Basically, is what they say. It's weird how they like keep you there for 10.5 weeks, and on that day you're like, bye bye, you're gone, and then you come home, and that's it. Then you go for your phase 2, and that's basically the whole week's done. I know it's a bit of a long video. Just to finalise it off, just to give a bit of thing. I would definitely recommend getting a steam generating iron. I thank everyone that mentioned to get a steam generating iron. Okay, I really appreciate it, because I didn't think anything of irons purely before going in, but it is very important to get a steam generator and get a half decent one. I bought one for 100 quid to begin with, and then I paid 180 for a new one, which is just a beast of a freaking iron. And then also on the last part, I was wrong about the polish, okay, on the other one. Do not use cherry blossom, it is a polish shit. I didn't realise it until I started using it, and it was shit. Use kiwi for brush, and use Saphir, Pate d'Artois, whatever it's bloody called, on the thing. Saphir polish black is brilliant. That's really good for bullying, and that will give you some mirror-like shines. But I might make a video on how to polish and stuff a bit more now, being into it, and how to box fold and stuff. I don't think I could do hospital corners on my bed. My bed doesn't have that facility. But hospital corners are really not that hard. And yeah, so that's it, guys. That was my 10 weeks. Just as a sort of following on for that, just stick at it. You know, if you've got family members who are in it and they're calling you up, tell them to stick at it. Like, I'm so glad I went through it, and I'm now officially a member of the Air Force. You technically are when you ascertain, but you've earned your stripe, sort of thing. I've got my patch on my PCS arm now. It's basically symbolised you are a member of the Royal Air Force, and they treat you with a lot more respect. You know, I've got my phase 2 starting at Cosford on the 1st of August, so I've still got a bit of time, fortunately, to spend with family and stuff, and hopefully I can make some videos for you lot to help you out as best you can. But stick at it. I promise you it will come to an end, and you'll be so happy you stuck at it. But other than that, guys, that's going to be it for me. I know this is probably the longest video I've ever done, 52 minutes long, bloody hell, or 53 minutes long. So, you know, stick at it, keep going, and just learn from it. You will learn a lot if you want to. You get out what you put in. But that will be me done. I will see you in the next couple of videos, whenever they're going to be. I don't know what they're going to be, but I'll definitely see you in the next ones. Until that point, have a good rest of your day or evening. Take care. Bye-bye.